regarded a residential real estate industry as not such a great industry, and that it almost offended me. He said, he's like, why are you doing that? It's not a great business. You know, buying residential rentals and flipping houses. It's like you making pennies. I said, what are you talking about pennies? I make $300,000 a year or whatever it was, maybe $500,000, I don't remember. And he says, have you ever made $1 million on a deal?
Look behind me. Hopefully you see what I see, which is endless opportunity. It's called commercial real estate. Can you wholesale commercial real estate similar to houses? Yes, you can. Can you own commercial real estate starting with zero? Yes, you can. Well, guess what? I have someone that's going to share that knowledge with us. Also, he's going to present an opportunity for you to partner with him and myself on commercial real estate deals nationwide. So you know what you need to do. You need to simply stand by. Let's get it.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-5243. You know. 205-964-5243. You know.
Hello, guys. This is Ty, aka the Flip Man. And today is one of those days that we have some brilliance in our presence. And short story, I was just researching, looking for commercial real estate ideas and ways to buy whatever. And I ran into Mr. Rafik Moore. And I reached out to him. He didn't hesitate to contact me back. And here we are, basically a few days later. So how's it going, Rafiq?
Hello, Ty. Nice to meet you. Thanks for reaching out.
No problem at all. Same here. So I want you guys to you really, if you're interested in commercial real estate, right, you need to watch this video. All right, because just the things that he and I have started to pursue just in a few days of meeting him. It just changed my whole focus on real estate in general, beyond just commercial, even what I'm doing in residential. So the way I like to always start this off, if you could just quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll get into, how you got started and so on.
My name is Rafik Moore. I'm from, I live in Minnesota, Minneapolis, Minnesota. My company is called Caspian Group, and we are a small boutique real estate investment company. We started with house flipping, buying, selling, fixing houses. I started flipping houses in 2003. That was my first flop that I got stuck with. But I started Caspian Group in 2015. And that's after having done multiple commercial real estate deals. And I set up a company to essentially buy, repair, lease, manage commercial properties in Minnesota predominantly, and now we do business all over the United States.
Okay. All right. If you could just give us some background as far as who you are, as far as even before I guess you got involved in real estate itself. Just who is Rafiq? I immigrated to the United States from former Soviet Union in 1998 from a Republic of Uzbekistan. Many of you probably haven't heard of Uzbekistan as a result of it being a part of USSR. But in 1991, Uzbekistan got its independence, and I lived through basically turmoil and economic turmoil of 90s. So I immigrated to the United States in 1998. Here I lived, I basically had to figure out everything out on my own. And I went to school at the University of Minnesota, got a degree in finance. I didn't really have a lot of financial resources, so I had to get into student loans and
pick up a second job or pick up a full-time job while I was going to school. I graduated in 2001 from the University of Minnesota, and started working it was actually a really bad time to graduate with finance in 2001 after 9/11. I graduated in December. And started working as an underwriter, risk analyst for a mortgage company. In 2003, I started a mortgage company and grew the mortgage company to 4 branches and did about $4 million in revenue per year. And as you all know, in 2007-8, there was a collapse of mortgage industry, and my mortgage days were over. And that's when I started flipping houses full time. Before that, I flipped houses on part-time basis. Well, my friends had hobbies of fishing and hunting, or maybe playing tennis. My hobby, it turns out, was flipping houses. And then my hobby turned into a full-time gig. In 2009, 10, 11, I probably work on 50 to 60 properties per year. And essentially, before my commercial real estate career, I was a full-time residential real estate guy. And my goal was to build about 100 houses, rental houses, and I thought I'm going to be able to retire with that income. So that's basically who I was before I entered commercial real estate game.
Okay, so you pursued residential, as most of us are doing and have done, or want to do. And so what was the first opportunity on commercial? And and sometimes even with residential, you're presented with commercial opportunities, and a lot of people may shy away from them because they don't know enough about it. But what was your first, whether it's an opportunity that succeeded or failed, what was your first opportunity as far as getting into commercial?
See, I got really, really lucky. In 2011, I met this guy by the name of Alex Ugoretz, who happens to be my mentor now. And I ran into him at a bank party. And, we struck up a conversation. And of course, I'm super proud. I'm flipping houses. I'm making a couple of $100,000, maybe $300,000 a year, which is a lot of money by all the metrics that I'm used to anyway, And in our conversation, he sort of regarded a residential real estate industry as not such a great industry, and it almost offended me. He said, he's like, "Why are you doing that? It's not a great business. Buying residential rentals and flipping houses. It's like you making pennies." I said, "What are you talking about pennies? I make $300,000 a year," or whatever it was, maybe $500,000. I don't remember. And he says, "Have you ever made $1 million on a deal?" I said, "No, but it's easy for you to say. You're a millionaire. You're a regular guy." I've always had this perception that commercial real estate is for these superhuman, very, very smart people who are members of Lucky Sperm Club, right? How do you buy a commercial property when you need to put a 25% down payment, sometimes $500,000 on a $2 million property, right? How do you come up with that? Normal people don't ever have that kind of money. So I said, it's easy for you. I mean, you're lucky. You're older and you got this, net worth and businesses. And he says, you can do whatever you can put your mind to. You just have to want it bad enough. I said, "Oh, okay." So I said, "Teach me, master. How do you do this? How do I buy a building?" He says, "There's a building on 6009 Wayzata Boulevard that I think is worth $3 million, and the guy is selling it for $2 million." It was odd for me. How is it possible that the property is in residential real estate? Anything that's a good deal, it's gone, right? Yes. In the commercial industry, it was a little different back then. And now in our ecosystem in Minneapolis, good deals don't just languish on the market; they go right away. But I'm sure in some other markets, like in Milwaukee and in Atlanta, we picked up some properties now that were very similar to my first deal. So I believe that there's pockets where there's still that opportunity. And he says, "Well, look, By the way, this is not a one conversation. There was multiple conversations over a couple of months after. I met him on a regular basis. We had lunches once a week or whatever. And this property was a 30,000 square foot warehouse building and 3 acres of land. And it was just a really ugly old building that didn't really, wasn't really appetizing or good looking. Long story short, I said, well, if you will do this deal with me, because I don't know what I'm doing, we'll go 50-50 on it. And yes, essentially it will be my experience in real estate. I used all of my residential skills in negotiating a contract. I put the property under contract, and it was going to be a contract for deed sale with 20% down, 400 grand down payment, and $1.6 million first contract fee for $1.6 million. And I negotiated a very unique type of a payment structure where there was 2.5% interest rate to accommodate low income of the property. That someday in the future, I'll talk about negotiating seller financing, which is a really amazing way to acquire real estate with almost no money down or with very low payments. Long story short, everything is set. 3 weeks prior to closing, Alex calls me and says, hey, I talked to my wife and I don't really have any partners. I don't think I'm going to do the deal. And I said, what? I gave him $25,000 in earnest money. Our due diligence expired, and you are going to drop me like this at the last minute? And Alex says, you're going to thank me later. Just do it yourself. I said, look, I don't have this. I'm barely scraped $200,000 from friends and family. I can't really do this on my own. I said, yeah, you can do it. So for the next 2 weeks, I had a shuttle service from my office to the building to multiple people. And I'm running around and I'm trying to raise this $200,000. And again, I got lucky. One of the people I hired came in for $100,000 and I gave her 10% of the deal. And then another lady that worked with us also came in with the balance. Actually, she financed it after the closing and I borrowed money to close on my own. Long story short, I gave up 20% of the deal for $200,000. And scraped up the balance of the $200,000 from various friends, family, and whatever. So it was a pretty big deal, and I was super scared about this because I've never done this before. I felt like I'm on my own, and on paper things made sense. The cash flow was coming in to cover the debt service. There was some remodeling I had to do. Basically, it's a very almost similar to like a buying a fourplex, except it's a bunch of warehouse units and office spaces that you need to clean up. So
it was already leased.
So it was leased to a bunch of month-to-month tenants. The building was slated for a demolition, and it was a really good apartment site. And so the value of the building was never in the building itself. The value of the building was in the land, and the building allowed me to sort of have a covered land play. So we closed on the deal in June of 2012. And just like he said, I started getting offers. I started marketing it for lease, but unsolicited offers started coming in for $3 million. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. I'm actually going to make $1 million here. It was an unbelievable feeling to go through this experience. But there was a caveat. And the caveat was that anybody who wants to buy the building wants it empty. And how do you sell a building that's full and generates cash flow to a person who doesn't want any tenants, wants to scrape the building? So this is what the catch was. And I didn't know about this until I bought the building. So I had it under contract 3 times before it sold. And the first 2 times it fell out because my seller says, look, my condition is that you get everybody out and I close. And I said, I can't get anybody out. If I get anybody, I don't have any money to pay my contract payment. What if you don't close? And my mentor advised me very ardently against doing that, because he says if you do that, they'll have all the leverage and they'll squeeze you down. They'll save another, they'll get $500,000 discount out of your prior closing. So he says, don't do it. The third person who ultimately made a $3.2 million offer, I from the get-go said, look, I'm not removing anybody. You want to buy it? You buy it with the tenants. You deal with the removal of tenants yourself. Otherwise, don't waste my time. And I sort of mentally, after 3 times, 3 contracts, I was mentally prepared to hold on to the property and be at peace with the fact that it's just a long-term hold. Ultimately, it closed, and there was this a moment of a catharsis with $1.1 million or $1.080 million. I don't remember the number now, but it was like I've never seen any thing like this. And of course, it totally opened my eyes to the possibility of doing more deals. And I've always been a prolific, like hardworking guy. I've always done more than one deal at a time, and doing 10, 12 residential flips and buying multiplexes. So that energy sort of converted very easily into commercial real estate pursuits. And I started buying commercial properties, 5, 6 properties a year until now, where we have a whole business around it. But that's the story of my first deal, if you want to know.
Okay. All right. So, I'm just going to say this, but it's not going to be the question. We're going to get into how you can wholesale commercial also, guys, if you're watching this or whatever. But it's a couple more things we want to get to before we get to that part of the interview. All right. So why do you target the type of properties that you target? And maybe, and we have to always assume when we're doing this, Rafiq, this may be someone's first introduction to commercial real estate. So if you'll quickly go through the different types of commercial real estate first, and then why the ones that you target specifically and not maybe the others.
So obviously, commercial real estate has a big gamut of food groups, such as multifamily apartments, mixed-use properties, retail, industrial. There's a whole business of new construction and development. We focus on very, very, a good niche, and that is value-add distressed properties. We target, and it's kind of an extension of my residential flipping business. You buy an ugly building, you clean it up, and you rent it out or you sell it. And so we sort of merged. We've transgressed from residential to commercial ecosystem. With this model, and we go around country now and we look for distressed, ugly buildings, and we remodel them and put them to use. We work with a lot of small business owners. The growth in the e-commerce industry created an amazing opportunity to capitalize on industrial real estate, and that happens to be the choice real estate sector that we focus on. However, we have been investing in retail buildings. We have been investing in multifamily properties. And again, we do not buy stable properties. Stable properties is for people who want to do long-term money management. The whole premise of my business, or our business, is to acquire as many properties as possible with very little or no money down. And after they're stabilized, refinance them for long-term hold and appreciation. So it's a cash flow mindset. We're trying to build cash flow. We're trying to create equity. We do sell properties sometimes when somebody wants them bad enough to pay us good price. But our model is to acquire and stabilize and hold properties for long-term growth and appreciation. So you talking about wholesaling. Well, wholesaling is a byproduct of our business. Sometimes, and very often, I have too many deals on my plate, and all the deals we find are really good deals. I think defining characteristic of my value add personally is I understand a good deal from a bad deal. And we live through times where money is a commodity. A lot of people have money and they want to invest. And we have a whole system about finding those people with money who either would partner up with you and provide their cash to do deals with you, or they will buy the property we are on a contract and pay us off a fee. On our first commercial wholesale deal, which I was going to buy on my own and stabilize, one of the people I met wanted to buy the property, and they paid us $250,000 assignment fee, and we sold the property to them.
We'll get into that story. I want to ask you a couple of more questions before we get to that part of it, because I want to make sure, because people attention spans or whatever, so we have to give them an apple to bite at the end. Yeah. All right. So I want to ask you this. Okay. So like we throwing these numbers around, and you and I discussed this also, and you want to make sure you didn't want to scare people off, with the numbers we throw around or whatever. So how can deals be done with no money? Because for the average person, especially if they haven't even done a residential deal, in most people's minds, commercial just not even an option.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So if you could just sort of go through that process of, I know it starts with finding a great deal first, but how do you come up with the money? Because you can find a deal, like you say, you can make $1 million off of, or $500,000 or 250, or definitely six figures. But how do you put something like that together? And I know it can be, just depends on the deal, but if you can sort of go through that process of being able to do a deal like that.
The first thing, that most important thing, and it's going to sound cliche right now, but I sort of am a firm believer in this. And the first thing you have to have is a mindset. Being a millionaire is more of a mindset than actually having $1 million in the bank. Like Jim Rohn says, if you have $1 million in the bank, let's be a millionaire. Otherwise, you'll run out of the money, spend it all. So mindset, and how do you understand the mindset? How do you get into that mindset? Well, it's about meeting the people that are doing it every day in and day out, and learning about what they do and how they do it, and also reading books. I'm a prolific student of life. I read books on a regular basis. I probably consume about a book a week. And I'll tell you, it's been absolutely transformational for me. I've read books, from like Robert Allen's The Challenge, or Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And when you read those books, there's a lot of nuggets of wisdom, and they tell you how and what to do in all these circumstances. So I was able to benefit from all this knowledge from these giants of industry and people who've done it, over and over again. To apply it in my life. So when first of all, I started with no money of my own. I don't come with a silver spoon in my mouth. I came with I borrowed money to buy my ticket to the United States. I mean, it's tough out there. It's easier in the United States, but, living in a third world country, coming to America is the biggest dream. And I'm very lucky to have been able to come here. But people live on, paycheck to paycheck and barely, minimum wage levels. So mindset is the most important thing, and you have to understand the industry. You have to learn a lot. So my advice to people who are starting out is pick up a book, go to a local investment association, and meet people, meet some mentors, and understand exactly what they do, learn from books of how to do it. And the first way to make any money, and I've done this multiple times with various mentees or people I met in an industry, is to start looking for deals. You find a deal, you don't have to actually lock it up. You find a mentor or somebody who's interested, and hopefully they're honest, and they will pay you that 3 to 5% fee to just for getting the deal. I do that all the time. If somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I got this deal on 123 Main Street, and you can pick it up for this number," I think it's a deal. I think it's a distress. I will go out of my way to pay that person to encourage them to do it more. And as a result, I have a lot of bird dogs all around the country looking for deals for me, and I pay them, $30,000, $50,000 sometimes. Depends on the kind of deal they find, obviously. Or if they are really good people and have good morals and have good upbringing and willing to learn, I would even bring him on a partnership. I've done that with a couple of individuals, and it's worked out really well so far. We'll see how it evolves. So finding deals is where it's at in current marketplace. 2008, 9, 10, there was a lot of deals. Finding money was hard. Right now, finding money is easy. Finding deals is hard. And if there's any kind of an off-market distressed commercial property that some of your viewers find, if they find out that it's available for sale or the seller is motivated, that's where they can really capitalize and get paid. And it's sort of a small wholesale, because whatever they get the contract, whatever the number is, if we negotiate a good price, there is a little fee for them. Now, if we have a property under contract for X, right, we need to make sure that it's a good deal. we can always find people in that market who are buying similar deals. And if we don't want to necessarily buy the property ourselves, we can always pitch it to them for a fee, whether it's a wholesale fee or whatever. And we don't really do it as a business. We don't go out there to buy properties with the intent of selling. But many times when we have a deal under contract and it's a good deal, multiple people in the area want to pay us a fee to take that deal over. Man, it's just a natural thing in the industry.
All right, now just to interject here. All right, a lot of vacant properties, a lot vacant commercial properties. So you got, I'm just telling you because it's going to come back on me, which is a good thing. You got to hone in, identify a potential opportunity because there's so many vacant commercial real estate properties. You got to sort of like niche it in a little bit on what you mean by what's a good deal, because most people, and just because I've experienced it, just because it's vacant and someone wants to sell, they assume it's a great deal. No. So if you could be a little bit more, you can explain a little more, identifying that. As far as what you buy, now you got investors that do all kinds of things. I'm talking about as far as what your group would be interested in.
Our number one choice real estate is small bay industrial. We'd like to buy small bay industrial properties all over the nation.
Explain. You got to
small bay industrial is basically a box. It's an industrial property with anywhere from 1,500 to 10,000 square foot units. Each unit will have a garage door or or dock, and these units will be used predominantly for e-commerce services by local Amazon wholesale shippers, or it will be used by mechanics to repair vehicles. Sometimes it's a yoga studio, sometimes it's a gym. There's a variety of uses for this type of property. We buy them. It's an affordable asset class. It's much cheaper than retail. We provide cheaper leases.
What type of neighborhood?
Neighborhoods are, the only thing that I look at neighborhoods, I just want to make sure it's safe. I want to be able to stroll in the neighborhood, in the evening and feel safe. However, having said that, every single property, every single neighborhood has a certain flavor and a value. Now, here's what the most important thing is. I want you to listen. I want you to write it down. All right. Whether the property is absolutely beautiful or whether the property is absolutely ugly and the roof is missing, the number one thing that we look for is to find a motivated seller. And it's probably a prevailing sort of a system throughout the whole commercial real estate industry, but motivated sellers are willing to sell. They're willing to finance transactions for us. The whole art of our deal is to understand if it's a good deal and try to buy it with as little money as possible. When you have, like currently I have $40 million under contract. And in order for me to buy $40 million, I need to come up with $10 million of cash. Well, I don't carry $10 million of cash in my bank account at any point because, money is always working and whatever. But I will put small part of that money down, and most of the money for the down payment will come from either a seller or a partner or an investor or some fund. And I've been very lucky to have created these relationships to where I can buy probably a limited amount of real estate for motivated sellers. As long as the deal is good, the money's always available. And if any of the viewers will learn how to of commercial real estate and acquire the knowledge, I promise there's going to be a lot of money available for your deals.
Okay, so I want to get a little bit more detailed on that. So you said basically small industrial, 1,500 square feet and up, with small bays where they can be sectioned off for multiple tenants. Ideally, one tenant could take up a property, but ideally multiple tenants. If it's a situation where, and it's just so broad, where the building may only be 3,000 square feet, but it comes with 4 acres of land. Well, let me make
now you're talking about expandability or potential, future potential.
Yeah.
There's a whole subject. A friend of mine wrote a book called Expandability, and he goes into detail about every single potential use of that extra capacity that a property brings. Like you can put a cell tower, you can put a billboard, you can build mini storage units. I mean, there's so much opportunity to maximize the value. Again, the one thing that I have gotten good at is to understand a good deal from a bad deal. And out of 10 deals that I get, 9 deals would be either bad or mediocre. But those really, really good deals, they come up, and from getting them under contract to closing or to wholesaling, it's a process. It's a commoditized, easy process. Having said that, we don't want to buy 1,500 square foot properties. I want to buy as big of properties as possible. I actually promised myself not to buy anything under $1 million. But then I don't have to be the buyer. I coach multiple guys across the nation to buy buildings, and they are my partners. So in my company at Caspian Group, many of our employees are partners in the deals. And when we buy buildings under $1 million, I just let them do it themselves. I provide capital, I lend them the money, or I become that, a capital partner, if you will. And I let them run with them. I want to focus on larger assets, and I want to focus on bigger problems to solve.
Okay, so how important? Because you and I have been talking several times this week about some properties that I was looking at or whatever. So how important is the population density to the building? Because everyone is not in a large market as far as population, and a lot of people watch this and they say, well, I know this building, but they're in a town of 7,000 people or 3,000 people. So, and the next nearest town of anything bigger than that is an hour and a half away. So how important is population density to even identifying if this is an opportunity or not for you all?
So there's a difference between residential and multifamily properties versus industrial or retail properties in a smaller, in areas with a smaller density or smaller towns. You always want to look at the probability of that property being full. If you have a property with a very in a small town, 10,000 people, but it's located on Main and Main, right? Then your probability of that building being full is probably much greater than if in that 10,000 person town you are located on the outskirts. I personally want to be in metropolitan areas. I'd like to be in Atlanta, Georgia. I'd like to be in Birmingham, Alabama. I'd like to be in Minneapolis, Minnesota, or Chicago, or Milwaukee. I like these larger towns because the density is huge, and there's a tremendous versatility and demand for the uses of our property. However, going into smaller towns, we could execute on those deals as long as they're located within the density of that particular town, if that makes any sense.
I got you.
And again, you have to ask yourself, is this property going to be leased, and will I be getting cash flow from it if I buy this property after the lease expires? And sometimes the answer is there's a big unknown, and that's the risk you take. If I would buy a property at a price where my rental income will pay down my whole mortgage in a 5-year period from that tenant, in other words, I'll have to get a deep discount. And then if you have a paid off property and you don't have any tenants, it doesn't really cost you much to keep keep a property empty. When it's a warehouse building, taxes are fairly low compared to other asset classes, and you don't have any debt. So there's almost a ever-evolving formula of how to underwrite real estate to make the best decision in buying it and turning it into a cash flowing asset.
Okay, and I'm glad you said that, but I want to ask you one thing because I want you to expound on that. How important is the property being off market to pursue, and what's your definition of off market? I have my own definition of off market. How important is it, number one, on it being off market?
So
Well, let's define off market first. Define off market first. As far as you're to do. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So definition of off market versus on market. Property that's off market is not going to be marketed on CoStar, on LoopNet, or a local MLS. What's going on nowadays? There's a lot of capital seeking deals, and if the property is on the market, unless it hit the market today and you're getting it under contract tomorrow, for the most time, good deals don't just sit around, wait for people to buy. There is always a buyer who is in the area, or the realtors who list those properties already know people who would be likely buyers, so they will send the property pre-list. Most of the time when you deal with a broker, there's a lot of competition. It's really hard to find a really good deal. I mean, you can pick up a mediocre deal. We probably get 50% of our deals on market and 50% of our deals off market. And the only way we can get a deal on market is either we got it when it first listed and we were like all cash offer, or somehow come up with very aggressive terms, or we offered a substantially lower price for whatever reason. There's a story here. You know, I had COVID in November of last year. And well, prior to COVID, a friend of mine, a broker, called me and said, look, there's a deal for sale. It's right next to another property you own, which happens to be a hotel. And if you bought that property, you would control a larger chunk of land in that town. And I said, well, you know, asking price was $2 million. And I said, I really don't know what to do with this property. It's a huge mill. It's a multi-story warehouse building. There's so much going on. I said, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. He says, well, the sellers are desperate. If you offer them $500,000, I think they will sell it to you because they want nothing to do with this property. They're gone. The mill was used, and they are not allowing the use of the property as a mill to avoid competition in this market. So it's basically a property you buy to scrape, and then you get 7 acres of land. I said, all right, well, I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want to send a $500,000 offer on a $2 million ask. So why don't you call the broker, explain to him what your intentions are, and then maybe we'll do the deal. So they got the offer accepted, 200,000 square foot warehouse building for $500,000. And then I got COVID. And I don't know if any of you had COVID, but when you have COVID, you're depressed, you're home, you basically are locked up.
You don't care about anything.
For 2 weeks. And I'm sitting home and I'm like drinking all these vitamins and listening to books, watching TV, whatever. And Ryan calls me and says, hey, what are we going to do with this property? I said, look, I'm not feeling it. I just don't want to do this deal. Just tell them to cancel the deal. I'm not in the, I don't know what I'm going to, oh, the other thing is we went and started getting bids for demolition. And we thought demolition would be about $500,000-$600,000, but demolition came in at $2 million plus.
Wow.
And so the reason for me not wanting to deal with, because as a demolition doesn't really work.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, Ryan, cancel the deal. I don't want to do the deal. So, well, I don't want to waste time with these guys, and they're really desperate. They'll give it to you for free. Just ask. I said, I can't really take a thing for free. Plus, they're probably not going to give it to us for free. He says, well, how about this? Let me ask them if they'll sell it to you. Would you buy it for $200,000? I said, sure, I might buy it for $200,000. I mean, what, $200,000 for 200,000 square foot building? It's good. It works. But again, call them and tell them that, you know, Rafiq is sick. He doesn't want to buy it, and that you are forcing me to buy the property, not me trying to be this, you know, squeeze the guys to get a better price, because I don't want the property anyway, and I'm not going to be able to demolish it. He calls me back 15 minutes later. He says, you are buying a property for $200,000. It was listed for $2 million. So, moral of the story, sometimes if the sellers are motivated, they'll give you that 90% discount, you know? We are talking to somebody who wants to buy the property from us right now for $2.5 million, but whether they buy it or not, I don't know. But in the meantime, we've rented it out, and I think we're getting about $10,000 of cash flow from a third of the building. So it was a scary building to buy. Many people told me that I'm crazy to take it on. And it seemed crazy at the time, but at $200,000, I thought, even if I walk away from it, it's not going to be, it's not going to, bankrupt me or anything. But it turned out to be a good investment. And if these people buy it for $2.5 million or $2 million even, we bought this thing in December. Yeah, December we're closed. It's going to be a really good payday. So moral of the story is understand what's going on the seller side, understand what the motivating factors are, and then, strike. But for the most part, when the
We're
broker
talking about off market, yeah. So
off market deals, yeah, and when you have deals off market, those deals are easier because you have a direct dialogue with the seller. What I like about off market deals, I have a direct ear of the seller, and we can negotiate. We're negotiating a deal with you, or talking about, we offered 450, you offered 450, they came back and said 675, and I would say, look, I will do a $650,000 loan, a $650,000 offer. I'm sorry, but I want you guys to carry $300,000, right?
And I hadn't told you what the answer was on that. If you want
that, and then when they say, all right, $300,000 you got, then we go to a bank, and bank lends us $350 on it. Our payment is $1,700. We get 10 grand a month. We didn't put any money down, and we own the property. Yeah, did we pay a market price for it? Probably. We probably pay them what it's worth, and the sellers are going to get a nice 4%, 5% on their money. If they sold it to a conventional guy and got the $675,000, they would put it in the bank and get a whopping, 1% if they're lucky. But here they will have a secured asset in the way of a note at 300,000 at 5%, and they can always sell that note and cash out also. So there's many ways you can buy a property if you have seller's ear. And most of the time when I talk to sellers, I always ask them to finance all or half or part of the deal, thereby reducing my need for down payments. And it's almost like a fun game. How can I buy this property with as little or no money out of pocket? And sometimes we bought a property and we walked away with $136,000. How would you like to buy a property, and when you come to a closing, you actually walk away with a check? That's amazing. Anyway, I'd love to help with that if anybody's interested.
Well, back as far as the on-market properties, what if it's a situation and you actually said it, but if it's a situation they're asking $3 million, you make an offer of 1.5. Now, if they accept it, then we may be talking a different ball game.
That's right, but guess what? You don't ever want to do that without talking to the broker, because you're going to offend a whole bunch of people. And I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to go around town and, like, I know some guys that make 500 offers or 450 offers or whatever, and they just go and machine gun style just write offers at half of the asking price, piss everybody off, and all that happens is that just wasted effort, and all those offers go into trash. Now, if you know the background of the deal, and if you're very respectful, very humble, and you call the broker and say, look, we feel that the value of the property is not $3 million. We have a buyer who's willing to pay $1.5 million. Now, I don't want to waste your time, Mr. Broker. I don't want to waste my buyer's time. Can you please find out from the seller if that is even a possibility? 90% of the time, they'll say, forget it, don't waste your time. Sometimes they'll say, you know what? My seller is so exhausted, he might consider it.
Okay.
And if he says that, that's when you go aggressively and say, look, we will do all cash. We can close in 30 days, whatever it is. I mean, just to get the deal done. And it doesn't happen very often because most commercial real estate owners are sophisticated. They know what they're doing. If that's a strategy you want to implement and going and calling a whole bunch of brokers, again, it's going to be a lot of wasted effort, in my opinion. Now, the better thing to do is to call sellers direct. If you see a distressed asset in your neighborhood, find the sellers. You can go on Reonomy, and the phone number and the name of the person's there. Call them up and say, hey, it looks like your property is distressed. I think I have a buyer. I'd like to buy the property. Would you be willing to talk? Can you show me the property? And then that's how it really all starts.
Okay, yeah. He mentioned Reonomy. A lot of people may not be familiar with that. It would be the version of PropStream or
Zillow, commercial Zillow.
Yeah, so it's commercial Zillow, I guess you would say. Yeah, but it's paid though; it's not free. Okay, so I want to ask you, as far as doing deals nationwide, and well, let's get into. Okay, so I've been saving this, and so we're going to talk about wholesaling, but we're also going to talk about how you can partner with Rafiq and myself after that. But You sort of went into it a little bit, but I want to sort of where you can expound on it a little more. Because I'll often get this question on wholesaling commercial, and I've done a few deals over the years, and always been seeking more. But my knowledge is limited on certain forms of commercial or whatever. So if you can go through that, like you say, you're not really in it to wholesale properties, but sometimes it's just not a good timing for you to buy the property. But you still can make money on a great deal. And, a lot of flippers are like that also in the residential. It's just not good timing for them to take on another property, but there's still money could be made there because they have a friend that is looking for more properties or whatever. So if you could just go into how that comes about and how lucrative it could be out there for individuals, and we'll get into, because part of this interview is, number one, to educate, is to add much value as possible. You don't ever have to deal with us. This is not what this is for. But if you're out there and you find a great deal, we'll be glad to partner with you in some form or fashion. So if you could just go into the wholesale aspect of commercial real estate, and I guess the amount of money can be, I guess, really no limit on it, I guess.
So disclaimer would be, I would be the potential buyer of any property some of your viewers have, and I would be happy to pay a wholesale fee on a small bay industrial property in some metropolitan areas mostly. I probably would not be interested in small towns. If it's in Minneapolis and we know the area, or it's in suburbs of Minneapolis or in small towns in Minnesota, probably do it. We probably do it in like Atlanta or Milwaukee, where we have a main asset that we will work on. But for the most part, I would be interested in metropolitan cities. So if any of the viewers have a property under contract or interested in doing the deal, and they have a property, I'd be happy to take a call, or maybe you take a call and you can pre-screen them, and I'll review it. I'll tell, hey, this is what I'm willing to pay, and I'm an all cash buyer most of the time. Sometimes I finance. When I say all cash buyer, I want to preface it with, I have capital partners who have millions of dollars sitting in the bank, and it's a one phone call, and I'll say, look, I'm buying a property in 2 weeks. I'd like to pay you 10% on your money. Can you finance $2.5 million? And I got those connections today. So, sometimes I buy properties myself with all cash, but I don't want people to be turned off by saying, well, it's easy for you to say it. You got money and we don't have money. So how does it really work? And what I'd like to say is that if you don't have something, somebody has it. If you don't have money to buy a property, somebody else has it. And all you got to do is be a good protagonist, be a honest, hardworking, diligent person, and people will believe in you. People take a chance on you, and they'll give you that down payment that you need to buy the property. If you don't have credit, there's people with credit. And if I found a property today and I got it for a really good value, and I would call anybody who I know and I'd say, look, I got this beautiful property, but my credit is not exactly the best. Would you co-sign on debt with me for a piece of the action? People will be happy to do that also. So again, it's so much of it is mindset. So much of it is believing that things are possible and then working hard to get it done.
What information, because I guess we just don't want to take on addresses. What information, before they even reach out to me or whatever, what information should they have about the property itself and owner and all this stuff? What information do they need?
I think the number one thing that they need to understand is, because we can look up, once we have the address, we can look up all the data on Reonomy or whatever, seller's story and why sellers are motivated. So I think that's the main thing.
So they would have talking to the owner.
Here's a 123 Main Street, and seller want to sell it, and he wants $3 million for it. That's where it starts. If you send the property, like you sent me a property for $4.5 million. I looked at it, it's listed. I said, look, it could be another one of those warehouse deals where if they've had it listed for 7 years, maybe it's worth a phone call. Mr. Broker, would your seller sell it for $1.5 million? I don't know. And they might just laugh at you and hang up the phone, or they might say, listen, we had it listed for 7 years. Obviously, it's not worth $4.5 million. Maybe we'll sell it. But most of the time, the answer is no. But if it's not listed and the seller is interested in selling, they'll say, well, I got this property. Most of the time, properties don't sell because sellers expect unrealistic numbers. And that's just a very, very straightforward issue. So they're not motivated. You don't want to talk to any seller. If the seller says, look, I'm okay to sell it and I'm okay to keep it, basically, it's not a deal for the most part. If the guy says, look, I really need to sell because I don't need the property anymore, or I really need cash to do whatever, we could close on the deal as long as the title is ready immediately, within a week, within 10 days. Some of the best deals I've gotten from those types of conversations. Now, you asked me a question about wholesaling. How does wholesaling comes about? We don't necessarily go out there and offer to wholesale our deals, but many times when we have a property under contract, some other people, like let's say we have a warehouse building on the property and a tenant comes in and he says, look, I'd like to buy the property from you. Well, many times we start leasing these properties while we're under contract. That's just one of the defining characteristics of our business, because we want to beef up that income as much as possible to get a higher appraisal, which again allows us to get a lower down payment or no down payment. If you get a property under contract for $1 million and you lease it up in due diligence and appraisal appraised it at $2 million, you don't have to put money down. There's ways to do this. So the tenant or the prospect who comes up to us and says, look, we want to buy it off of you without you buying it. And if we vet them, if they're qualified, we would step aside for a fee. We've gotten as big of a fee as $450,000. And on average, we're not greedy. $100,000 is what we sometimes would charge. And again, we do not wholesale as a main business. Wholesaling is sort of giving away our upside. And when we started this conversation before we were rolling, I told you I sold my first deal for $250,000 fee. And honestly, I regret having done this because my friend who bought the building from us made $1 million on it, And so you mostly on a wholesaling are giving away potential for a quick fee today. And again, if we have a great amount of viewers look at deals and find deals, we'd be happy to. We can provide that analytics to understand if a deal is good or not good, and give them a good answer right away of what we can offer on a particular deal. Let's say the seller wants $3 million. We'll say, look, $3 million doesn't work, but $2 million we can close anytime. Or if it's $2.5 million, seller needs to be involved in financing. We got that sort of a analytical approach, and very quickly we go through the weeds and get an answer on whether a deal works or not.
Yeah, one of the things that you shared with me, and I'm glad you said something about analytics. And let me see if I'm saying this right. If you can buy, when you buy a building, you're looking at, if it's we'll just say a 10,000 square foot building, but there's 5 acres that comes with it. So you're now looking at the total square footage of the property, what you can buy per square foot, basically.
Correct. Per square foot of property and per square foot of land.
Yeah. Okay. And so if that number is really low, then you say, well, I know I can lease it out for X number higher than that. If you could explain that, I think I'm explaining it correctly. If you could explain that a little more, if you could just give a numbers example, I guess.
I think if you want to talk about analytics of how to underwrite a commercial deal, we can have a whole episode on it. There's so many layers and layers of complexity, but I'll tell you in just effectively, when you buy a property for an X for a price, let's say $1 million, the property for the most part reflects the net operating income that is being generated by the seller. If seller is generating a tremendous amount of income, he will not sell the property on a discount. Why would he? Most of the time, these sellers are despondent or deceased. Most times properties are dilapidated and the owners don't have the desire or the capital to improve it. And that's where we step in. We buy a property, we put a new roof, we do new asphalt, we cut a large, a 30,000 square foot space into multiple 5,000 square foot spaces. And then we market it to various tenants and create income. What we do is we take the existing net operating income of a property and we increase it substantially. And when you increase that net operating income through a very simple calculation of a net operating income divided by the cap rate prevailing in that area, we arrive at the value. We have a property currently under contract. We're closing it in a week. My junior partners flew out to Atlanta, Georgia, to meet with the guy who brought the deal in. This property is almost vacant. 72,000 square foot warehouse building in Lithonia, Georgia. We're buying it for 1.6 million. Our remodeling budget is about 1.3 million, and we're going to basically put a new roof, cut it up into smaller bays. We started pre-marketing it already. We believe that the value of this property stabilizes around 5 million. And we think that, we are going to make $2 million on it. Having said that, when my guys have been marketing it, they said, well, somebody wants to buy it. How much would we sell it for? I said, I really don't want to sell it, but if somebody wants to buy it, I'm willing to give up 50% of our profit, which is $1 million. So we'll sell it for 2.6 million. And if somebody came to us and said, look, step out of the way, we want to take it, here's your $1 million, I think we'll walk.
Boom.
Having said that, if this property was listed on the open market, it probably would generate a lot of interest, and it could have sold for more. You never know what it would sell for, but it could have been sold for 2.5. It could have sold for 2 million. It all depends on who needs the property. So that's a big example of how things evolve and are done.
Okay, just a couple more questions, Rafik, and really appreciate your time. Does age matter starting out as a commercial real estate investor?
That's an interesting question. We have a 19-year-old member of the team who joined our team, who joined Caspian about 6 months ago, and he had some money from his family that was basically available, and he is in 3 deals with us right now. I think he's very young, aggressive. I'm encouraging him to get some classes. He doesn't want to go to school. I said, look, you don't want to get a bachelor's degree, that's okay, but take accounting classes, take finance classes, take a marketing class. Why? Because you want to know basics of what it means to run a business. And then you can kind of elevate. And by the way, once you've taken all these classes, might as well take all the others and get your degree. Who cares? And if you want to do it full-time, full-time real estate investing, I think getting a degree for the sake of getting a degree or getting a diploma is useless. But I'm a proponent of education. I'm basically a student of life, and I always encourage everybody to get as much education as possible in pursuit of financial freedom or pursuit of your passion. Some people say, look, I don't need money. I want to be a doctor and I want to fix people. Fine. Which happen to be in the ecosystem where we're in the finance industry. So that's what I had to say about that.
All right, boom. So guys, we put it out there that if you find number one, retail space that appears to be 50% vacant or whatever, you're looking for small industrial buildings, small to large. I'm sorry, let me back up. Small to large. The more land that comes with it, the better. They technically need to be in a metropolitan area, your larger cities, which is 50 to 75 of those, I guess, nationwide. And ideally off market. You need to have already spoken to the owner, see what their pain is, if there's any, and a price. If you have that, which I have a site been set up for a couple of years now. You can submit that. You should see it on the screen here at some point. But ICCRE.com. You can, it's a form now. I may have to edit it a little bit, but that's fine. And you submit the property over. We'll take a look at it. And from there, we'll reach out to you because you'll normally have the contact information for the owner. And we can possibly put a deal together and we can all win, which is the name of the game. But if anything else, you don't have to deal with that. It just may be a spark for you to educate yourself further on commercial real estate, because you may want to fall in the lane of hotel motels, I don't know, or self-storage, which Rafik mentioned that he has a friend that's excellent in actually the self-storage space. We may soon get him on also. So before we get out of here, Rafik, I know time is money. Anything else you want to share with the audience before we end this? Just
wanted to conclude with saying that I have I have achieved everything I wanted in life. I've been very lucky. I've met a lot of good people who helped me to get to where I'm at. And this next chapter of my life, I want to commit to helping others achieve their highest potential. I don't do things because I want more money. I don't, that's not something that drives me anymore. I mean, I like the game. I like the whole pursuit of excellence. But what I get fulfillment from now is from helping others achieve their highest potential, because I sort of vicariously relive the whole journey, right? I came with nothing, and I was a janitor, and I was a driver, and I've gone through the whole being poor and pinching pennies, and it's tough. And having been lucky to have been to have achieved everything that I've achieved, I am now in a place where I like to share, and I like to share my experience, the jewels of wisdom that I've collected from all the books and trainings. Probably spent over the last 20 years, no kidding, $300,000 to $400,000 on education. Like all these seminars with gurus, and the Commercial Academy has been very instrumental in getting me to understand commercial real estate. Commercial Academy is, commercialacademy.com. I work with Greg Pinio, who teaches how to work with sellers. I work with Ron LeGrand, met Robert Allen, read all his books. So, if I have to give somebody advice, I can tell you one thing: it's totally possible. You got to want it bad enough, but it's all in those books and trainings. And you'll be surprised how, as you get out there, and to me, when I went to Commercial Academy, and a guy by the name of Danny comes up and says, "Hey, I have 170 units," and he's 21 years old. I was like, what? He can do it? If he can do it, I should be able to do it. So I meet him and talk to him. And when you're surrounded by a whole bunch of people that do deals, you're going to do deals. So you got to go and surround yourself with people who you want to look like or be like. And that's where the mindset comes in. I mean, so that's what I want to say. And I'm happy that you reached out, Ty. I'm happy to help. I'm available. Ty has all my contact information if you guys need anything. But I will be happy to help with anything I can, in any way I can.
All right, again, man, we really appreciate your time, and we're going to do more of these. Like I said, next time we might just analyze a few deals to give you some.
We might go on a field trip in Birmingham, Alabama, on the deals that you're seeing. So that'll be fun. I love to.
Or in Minneapolis. So
yeah.
Hey, planes fly both directions. All right. So again, guys, we appreciate this time, and as I always like to say, we'll see you on the flip side.
All right. Thank you.
Text me and I'll text you back. Text me and I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. You text me then I'll text you back. Text me then I'll text you back. TikTok, you don't stop. I will help you make your paper stack. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at? Where you at now? 205-964-5243. Now you know. 205-964-5243. Now you know.